Uh, my handle's John Miner 3 at GitHub, and there's a community directory. If you look in the community directory, there's two places you want to look at, okay? The first place is tonight's material. So if you go to introduction, there's all three versions of the library we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a create database script we need, a cleanup, some data tests. I'm actually going to give you a bonus round. We're going to talk about Fabric and the new job. This is a managed service they just came out with. I've been working with the product group. There's a lot of bugs in it. To actually chatted for an hour today with them. So hopefully they're going to fix it. Second thing you can do is look at the DBT sample Chinook databases, and you can see it's a lot more complicated than the previous one, and actually goes over what you need to do. Like, look at this because this is how you install it. For instance, you want to download this project, you need Visual Studio. Um, if you target SQL Server, you know you need the adapter for SQL Server. This gives you the way to pip install it, right? And you can have ODBC driver because not only do you have to have the adapter, which is the core code that knows it's SQL Server and how to deploy to SQL Server, but it uses ODBC. And then the Chinook database, it's about records, okay? And then it goes over each of the commands. And know what the funny thing is, we're going to talk about a lot of these commands today, like snapshots and seeds and marts and so on. And then it goes over the objects, and then there's some tests. And then last but not least, there's a backlog, okay? And so yeah, take a look. It's good stuff. I spent a lot of time on it. We're going to talk about Fabric in the future, so I want to minimize this. But we're going to start off with good old-fashioned SQL Server. So let me get into the slide deck, do a little background, and then we'll do a bunch of demos, okay? So I'm going to hide it. Okay, so again, my name's John Miner. I'm a data architect at Insight. I have a 10-time MVP, hopefully number 11. We're talking about introduction to the data build tool. It's called DBT. Okay, background. Again, I'm going to make sure it's all hidden. We're going to talk about the background DBT, how it came around. We're going to talk about how to configure VS Code, Visual Studio Code, right? And that's a free edition. The core version of DBT is free too. There's a managed version. Hey, you don't want to run on your compute? You don't have to. You can run on managed version. My friend Matt, like I said, is working for an oil company, and what they're doing is they're using a Kubernetes cluster and deploying their jobs there from GitHub Actions. Okay, we're going to talk about two very main concepts: materializing data and data quality. They're both very important. And then talk about producing documentation. That's the biggest thing. Lots of companies. I'm in a company right now. It's a big company, and guess what? Things are poorly documented. Things are done in multiple different ways. DBT makes you conform to using just SQL only and to do good documentation. We'll talk about that, okay? Background, concept. It's an open source tool that helps engineers transform existing data within a warehouse. So it's T. There's no E, there's no L. So that means that you have to go ahead and use another tool to extract from the source and put it to the target, okay? So once it's in the warehouse, this tool allows you to go through your medallion zones, right? Bronze, silver, and gold, whatever you decide to call them, and to, you know, clean your data, curate your data, refine it, and then basically get it ready into a dimensional model, okay? Now, how did this come about? It was the framework's written in Python. We'll talk about that, but that's how we are using VS Code. And you can define translations two ways. You can use a SQL script and or a YAML file, okay? Now, the real power comes from the fact that adapters have been written for many different target database management systems. So we're working with SQL Server, Azure SQL, but it could have been Fabric SQL. It could be, which are the same. Could be Fabric Warehouse, which is a little different, but it'll still work, okay? So let's get into the requirements. We need to have VS Code. We need to install Python language version 3.7 or above, okay? So you got code, Python. And we need an ODBC adapter, right? And we need a driver, okay? Studio Code. So the very first part is we want to open the folder. And what I want to do is I want to change to the place where I'm talking about the projects, okay? So it's going to be an introduction to DBT, and I'm going to look at library v1, okay? Actually, before we go to library v1, let's talk about data, and I'm going to select this one, okay? I use Agentic AI for a couple things. One is you can tell it things to do. So for instance, let's say I want to create a date table, right? So to create a date table, this is fine. How did I come up with this code? Well, you want to install Python, okay? And that's the very first thing, right? And you can tell from, where's the terminal? I always forget where it is. View, is it run or new? Here we go, terminal, new terminal, here we go. Okay, so this is get me a new terminal, and guess what? We know Python's installed because it did conda activate right there. But if we did Python, whoops, the over here, Python, and then dash dash, and then type version. Okay, we can see we have Python version 3.1.1 to 12.7. Okay, so that's the version we have installed. Okay, now I've already set this up to do Agentic AI, and you can look at the documentation for VS Code integrated with GitHub to do this. But let's say we wanted to do a new project. Okay, so I do open new file. Okay, Python, and what I want to do is Control I, and I could say write Python function to create date table. All function to create dates from 2025 01 01 to say 2035 dash 01 dash 01. Save data in a pandas data frame, right? Data frame to CSV file. So this is prompt engineering, right? And that's what they call it. And so what we can do is we can see that it actually created it. See, it created a date table, start date, end date, okay, OGS. It's going to convert it into the date times, right? It's going to come up with day, a week, quarter, so on, right? And it says write to date table. So this is telling me, hey, do I keep it or not? Now, this is the model I used. I use Claude Sonnet 4.5, but I could have picked any of these models that are available. So I'm going to say keep. Okay. Now, right here, we can see there's a dates table, but there's not something called, and again, I'm going to toss this away because it's so easy to create, but date table.csv. Okay. And again, this is how you build systems. You write little components. So I'm just going to put this as test, and it's running it. And lo and behold, if we refresh here, now we have a date table. And if we look at it, guess what? There's your date table. So if you haven't been doing Agentic AI, please take a look at it. Everyone's doing it. This is the most simplest use, generating code using it. Okay, so I'm going to delete this guy. Okay, let's look at what I've done and to get for this demo. First, I wanted some sample data. So now I did. Did I get rid of it? Control Z. Create sample data. That's it. I wanted to get rid of this guy. What? Okay. So I'll show you what I did for the date table. So this date table, whoops, it double clicked it. It's something similar, right? It just does a date range, but didn't create a function, right? It just created it and it saved it right to dates. If we look at dates, we have something similar to what we had before. Okay, great. I needed some sample data. So I wanted to have a library schema. So in the library schema, we have books, we have members, and members take loans out on books. We lend it to the book to the member, and they have a date to come back. So if we look, we can see this is book ID, author, title, and so on. Is this real? No, this is garbage. This is just made up data, okay? Same thing with the loans, right? And same thing with the members. How did we create it? Again, I asked the prompt and I said, hey, guess what? Create me some sample data. And it's using this library called Faker. And then it went ahead and said, hey, generate books, generate members, and generate loans. And guess what? Tell it the number of records, boom. You can also use, okay, agentic AI to do diagrams. For instance, I said, dump this to an ER diagram. And I said, okay, from that, I said, create me a SVN file and SVG file. And guess what? Suddenly I got my diagram here, okay? So that's how I got the data, okay? So if we go back to the slide deck and we look at the next one, we can see that I need some sample data. So I used AI, right, to generate the tables, and I got sample records, and we have books, we have loans, and we have members. So members lend out books, library lends out books to members, and that's what we're going to study tonight, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a source and target. We have an Azure SQL database. We're going to initialize a project and talk about how to seed, right? So we got Azure SQL, DBT, and DBT.
I think I missed the step to use Gentic AI with Visual Studio Code. Do I have
Yep.
to install an extra extension or is inside of the Visual Studio Code?
So first thing is my company is gracious enough to do a license for GitHub. Okay, so GitHub, it's $10 a month to get a license to use Agentic AI. Okay, and what you can do, and let me quickly, I think I'm still sharing my screen, right? Or no, maybe I'm not. Here, I'll share it again. Yep, I'm sharing. Is that if you go ahead and you go here and say set up Visual Studio, Visual Code, right, for GitHub Copilot. Okay, it's going to show you how to go through it. Okay,
Got it.
so
Sounds good.
GitHub count, Copilot, Visual Studio tells you how to install the extension, how to sign in, create an account. You're
Mhm.
gonna have to pay $10 a month, but guess what? That $10, it'll save you tons of times,
It's
right?
completely
So,
worth it.
oh,
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
definitely worth it, and hopefully your company will be like, hey, you're being so productive, we'll pay for it.
Nice.
So again, what I did is I said, hey, Agentic, write me something, right? And guess what it did? It just basically wrote me a little program to say, I'm going to copy this over to that directory while I'm thinking about it. So if I have to run this again, I'll know where it is. This basically is telling me the drivers, okay? So the very first thing we need to do is we know what the drivers are, right? So I had to download ODBC driver 18 because that's a news version if you want to work with like Fabric Warehouse and so on and use Microsoft Entra, okay? And here's my drivers. We can do access and so on. So under talks, we went to Introduction to DBT and we were in Library 1, right? We'll select this folder for now. And so this is going to teach you how to do seeding. But before we get into that, I want to show you how to create a new project, okay? So to create a new project and it creates a bunch of stuff, you say new terminal window, right? And DBT is one of those things from the command line, okay? And so first we had to get, I'm going to go up one, right? Because I don't want to create it in one of these directories I already have. One thing I'm going to show you is this, is that first we said, hey, we have to have Python. So, oops, I just had it there. I don't know why the code complete worked. So we have 3.7, awesome. Next thing is we need to do a pip, right? And what we want to do is show, and guess what? The main thing you install is DB core, but then you might have to do like the SQL adapter. And we're going to do the SQL adapter tonight because that's what we're doing. And so we can see DBT SQL. It's ready set. I could talk to SQL and write a SQL. And we can also do DBT Fabric. I could write to a SQL warehouse, right? But the main thing for DBT to work is DBT core. There you go. These are the commands you have. So you can build, you can plot, clean, you can clone, you can compile, and all this stuff. But guess what? We want a new project. This is the one you do, right? So we're going to do DBT, right? Init, and you just call it. So I could just call this RI debug, right? Because that's where we're at. So we're dialing data platform user group, hit enter. And then what's going to say is, hey, I know I have two adapters. Which one you want to use? Do we want to write to the target as Fabric and assume that the data's already been loaded in Fabric? We're going to do or SQL Server. So I'm going to say two. And then at this point, it's going to prompt you for everything, right? I'm going to kill it, okay? Because I know what it does. I don't need to really worry about it. And now if we do CD to RI debug, In fact, why don't I change the directory then, and we'll go back to the library directory, and I'll show you the very first one. So we'll just open the folder there. And so we created this guy, and let's select the folder. Okay. So the main thing we have to do is a project file. And this project file sets up some things like, hey, what's a name? What's a profile? We'll talk about profiles in a minute. That's how you connect, basically. Here's some paths, right? We got a model path, analysis, task, seeds, macros. We'll talk all about these, how to clean it. And then what is a model? And then, oh yeah, we got materialized. It's a view, right? And then we can go into each one, and by default, it creates like some samples. Okay. So what is this? Oh, this sample is like, hey, I want to create a table. And what I'm gonna do is, and again, this is just sample select from source. Well, there's no source yet. It's just guessing. You have a table called source, and then you also have some source data. Okay. So for some reason, it's installing the SQL tool. I did not want that, but it's just our first project. Okay. Now we're going to modify that project. Okay. And I'm going to show you what the first one we want to do is library one. Going to select this folder, and I'm going to show you the major changes. First thing is we need a profiles, okay? What is a profiles? I'm going to call this project library, okay? The database is going to be called library 2, okay? So we look, we have a database called library. How did I do that? Well, I already deployed it. And again, all this stuff I'm showing you here is in the repo, except for the ODBC. I'll put it out there if you're just curious about it. So create database, library, edition, general purpose, service edition. It's a serverless Gen 5 4 cores. Okay, that's what it did. Boom, deployed it. Next thing is I'm going to change this password because I got hacked. I will be deleting the account after this. So even if you try to get it, it's not going to be there. I'm logged in as the service account already there, but let's look at what we'd have to do if we didn't log on the service account, right? So we're going to go to JMiner, which is the powerful admin, and we'll connect in there. And I'll close this and go back to this guy. And then now we can see we got a bunch of them, Chinook included, and we can open up the file. So if we open up the create file again, we can see not only we created a logon, but we gave them the ability to connect. We're a database manager and a login manager, okay? And then we create a user and gave it ownership to library, okay? And if we look at library right now, there's no tables there. There's no views there, okay? So that's what we're going to work with, okay? So we put the ODBC driver in, SQL Server. Here's the name to the Azure SQL database. Is nothing new. Database schemas data. Okay, this is really important. When it deploys, what is it going to create? It's going to create something called schema data, and then it's going to put a postfix on it. Okay. Now the password. Ooh, I changed that. See, I've been trying to keep people from hacking me. So we need to fix this. Okay. So let's do this. We're going to fix this. Oops. Does it let me? I thought I hit V. Okay. No, that's not right. Come on. Edit, copy, because I just changed this today because I was doing some demos for the product team at Microsoft. Okay, there we go. So I changed it. Now let's make sure we save it. Okay. So if you have a project file and a DBT file, okay, what is this? It's a log. I'm going to get rid of it because I want to show you what it's going to do. Okay. Got rid of it. DBT. Right. And then debug. What does debug do? Debug makes sure that you can connect. That's all it does. So let's look at it. It said, hey, by the way, first, I know that this is my Python compiler. This knows that there's a DBT out there. It knows that this is the directory library one. It found the profile to connect to the target. It found the YAML file for the project, how it's laid out. Oop, it went and connected, okay? It went to library, knows that the scheme is there. Here's the user ID, okay? And that's it, and it connected, okay? And if we ever want, sometimes things go wrong in DBT, how do we debug them? Well, if we go in here, here's the log of all the code that's actually being written or outputted for Python, right? So it said, hey, just connected. Okay, so there's no really SQL code going on here, but there's going to be SQL code in the future, okay? Let's look at the project file. Well, it's been cleaned up, but we have models, okay? Models is where you start defining where things are. This is version 1, so we don't have any models yet. Analysis is where you put like SQL in for people to understand how to query things in your final model, like your dimensional model. Logs, I showed you, that's where it goes. Macros. The power of dbt is its cross-database ability, okay? I can deploy to Fabric SQL. I can deploy to Oracle. Macros is where you can put code in there that says if SQL Server, then do
Right.
this. Otherwise, if Oracle, do this, right? So that helps you do that cross thing. Seeds. This is how you get data that is like dimensional static data. Do not load big files in. Snapshots. This is where you do your slowly changing dimensions type 2. Target. This is where the output is, and test. We'll talk about test shortly, okay? So we're basically saying, hey, guess what? In seeds, I want to take, oh, remember we had this profile. So the root is data, and anytime you have data here, you're going to underscore it and append it to whatever is in the DBT project. So it's going to be data underscore raw, okay? Snapshots will be data underscore snapshot. Do I want a column store? No. In the models, guess what? I will have stage, it's a view. In the Mart, I'll have a table and it's a column store, okay? And again, I wouldn't use column store, but I'm trying to show you all the features, okay? Now, the very first thing is you could say dbt run and or dbt seed, and it will run all the seeds. But what happens if we just want to do one, right? DB and oops, Control Z. That's where the power is, right? You know, the command line, everyone does things from the command line, not with the Microsoft offering, which is going to be more of a GUI. But if we type dbt, right, and we type seed, and then we do dash dash select, okay, we can run a single file, right? So this is great because say if I just want to refresh the dimensional model for books, I ran it using the JMiner account, and now if I execute it, it's 25. I don't understand why it didn't work, but we have one table, right? Let's do all three, right? And the simplest way to do that is not even do a select, right? So we can deploy one or multiple, okay? So boom. Okay. What I'm going to do is behind the scenes to show you the next example. I'm going to do desktop, talks here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this profiles. So I'm going to need this another two because the other account's not working right now. So I add it, paste, place. And then go back to this guy, right click, edit, paste, replace. Okay, so let's go back to the slide deck. So we talked about that, and guess what? Here's our command line. So everything we showed you is from the command line, right? And we talked about what is run. Run just runs everything, right? And what it does is, what I didn't tell you is every single file should be uniquely named. Why? Because it's creating a DAG, and then it's figuring out the relationships, the dependencies between them. So that way you could, you know, run one at a time, run dash select slash file name, or you can just run them all, okay? Uh, we're going to talk about snapshots and we'll talk about docs generation, okay? So materializing data is a very big topic in DBT, okay? So we have data, say, in the C directory. What can we create? We can create tables, okay? We can create views. We can create a special table called incremental, and it can be using a append or it could be a merge, and it could be using a date or it could be using a key. Okay. Ephemeral. Ephemeral is interesting. It's a placeholder. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I got a dates table. I want a dates table, but just put a placeholder there. You cannot directly query it, so it's not going to deploy it. But if you reference it in the next layer, say the Mart, and I define ephemeral and stage as one record, it will show up there, okay? And last but not least, materialize views are not supported. Snapshots are. Snapshots are basically for your dimensions, okay? So let's look at the second example, and it's going to go over each one of those, okay? So if we open folder, okay, and we go to library 2, and hopefully I don't have any more issues tonight. We can see we've built out a lot more. So we have snapshots, we have seeds. Whoops, we brought dates in now, right? We have models. We have a mop model and we have a stage model, okay? So we'll go through each one of these. And we also have a row counts, right? So I'm just going to rename this and put this back in. And the reason why I got this is because it's going to fail. I just want to show you, okay? So the very first thing is we're going to do seeds. So to do that again, and the cool thing about this is you can tear things down and rebuild them completely from scratch, right? So let's go do that. So we're going to go here, and if we look and we hit refresh, we created 3 raw tables, right? And that's how they call them, right? Raw. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the create database, or actually the one that's the next one, which is to clean up and testing, but we're going to get rid of this, right? And we're just going to get rid of everything. It's going to create views and that, and so if we hit refresh, guess what? They're gone, right? So we purged them. Awesome. So the very first thing is, let's do the dates again, right? So we're just going to CLS, right? And what we want to do is do seeds. This time it's 4, not 3. So DBT and then seed. So that's going to create all our seeds. Now we can add documentation by adding profiles in here, okay? So it's created and it shows us inserts really quick. Now, how does it do it? Behind the scenes is a setting that says, hey, a row count, it does batches of 400. So that's why it works really well with Fabric. It takes seconds, right? If you do 400 into 18,000, it's not too many times you have to do inserts, like maybe 20. When I did 18,000 inserts into the Fabric database, I went and had lunch, talked to my mom, kissed my kid goodbye, and then guess what came back and it still wasn't done. Okay, so that's the main difference. Okay, stage, we can base it upon when it comes in. And there's 2 ways to do it. We can do YAML files of this. I'm going to use SQL files and we can override stuff. So I'm going to materialize it and the schema is stage. So it's going to be data underscore stage and select star from reference book. So it's smart enough to say, hey, guess what? Where this seed table is, reference it. Dates. Dates is materialized, it's incremental, okay? And we're going to select from incremental. Now, this is interesting. If it's incremental, then we want to take the ID of the target, which is date02, and select from the source, which would be 01. And if the 01 date ID is greater than equal to the max of 02, which is only new stuff, then bring it over, okay? Date 03. This is a ephemeral table, right? It won't create it, but what it's going to do is it's actually just correcting a single record. I just hard coded it, right? Members. Okay, this is a view, okay? And then row counts. Oh, I'm trying to do a materialized view on, say, for instance, count, right? So let's try doing stage. So to create stage, we do dbt, okay? And the seed is only the C command. Anything else is a snapshot's a snapshot command. Anything else is a run. So we're going to do S. And then we can tell the subdirectory, hey, I want to just deploy stage, okay? And 4 out of 5 are going to work correctly. The one I told you that's not supported is going to fail, okay? So let's take a look. So books is going to be a table. Did it become a table? Let's take a look. Refresh. We can see that books now is a table. And if we select it, there's some data there, okay? Nothing different. It's the same data you saw in the other layer. So we're not doing anything that's like rocket science here. But it's cool. Dates 02. Okay, this is a table 2, but it's an incremental table. And I'll show you why it's important, okay? Views. We have members. That was the only view we deployed, okay? And we can see it's a view there, okay? And if we wanted to fix this, let's do this because I haven't done this before. But I'm gonna just copy this, and I'll right click and hit paste. So now we're gonna copy of. Gonna rename this one, okay, to .txt. So say I want the row count, but I want it to work, right? Well, we know members was materialized as a view, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the row count and materialize it, not as a materialized view, because we know it's not supported in SQL Server, but we're just going to do it as a regular view, okay? I'm going to rename this. Okay. And it's so easy to deploy stuff. So now just to fix it, I just do dbt run, right? And I'm not running a whole thing, so I have to do a select, right? And then I'm going to, did I spell it wrong? I spelled it wrong. And I'm going to do row counts 02.SQL. And now it's going to redeploy. So the nice thing about this, we're not doing anything except for SQL, right? Did I make a mistake here? Select star. I never finished it, so there you go. Well, save. It failed because it was there, but I never finished the code. Or if I had it, I must have hit delete by mistake. Okay, so now it created this view. So now if we hit here, so this allows you to put business logic now here. This business logic was to just get row count, right? And so I'm getting table names. And for some reason it thinks dates is one, right? And is that correct? Let's see. That's not the one here. Whoops, did I hit the wrong button? I think I did. But it must be looking at the ephemeral one, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, so it actually was smart enough to look at the ephemeral one. We could define it somewhere else, but we can't reference it exactly, okay? And if we're curious, right, we can see behind the scenes in the log what it did for that. Like we could come back and know what it's doing. It's probably doing a CTE, and I'm pretty sure that's how it's implemented. So if we go ahead and we take a look at row count, right, and I think it was CNT, right? And this is the first error, right? So I want to get past the errors. Okay. Go this way. I hate Visual Studio. Okay, that's the errors. Let's do this. That's not the errors. Target, running. Okay, so this is option label. So you can see all the code it's running, basically, if you're curious, right? What I want to show you is it's actually just putting the code in as like a here document almost. So this is date 002. Let's see if I can find it. Come on. And I'm looking. Okay. So here's something that looks promising. Maybe not yet. Okay, create. So this is creating a data mart. So you can see it does all these things, right? Yeah, am I way down here? How about we do this? I'm going to delete this because there's just too much junk here. I just want to show you this and we'll move on to the next and we'll close up. So this one's way up here. So delete. Go to recycle. Going to run this one more time, just itself. It's going to drop and recreate the view, and then I want to show you what it's doing behind the scenes. And I'm just going to close all here. So I'm going to clean up my workspace. Perfect. So now if we go to DBT, right, we take a look, it did just that one. How did it do it? And we're looking for the SQL. So if we go down, we can see it's creating a temporary view. Then it did a CTE, and guess what? It's almost doing like a here document. It's putting that SQL right in. And then it's selecting books and then union it all. So basically it said select from the CTE, and the CTE is the code that we're referring to before. Okay, so that's how ephemeral works. Okay, let's look at how one of the things we want to do is learn how incrementals work, right? So we have right now, I'm going to show you an example, the cleanup plus testing. Okay, so we're going to select from row members, right? So we have one snapshot. Did I deploy it? I don't know. I don't see the snapshot, so we didn't deploy it yet. So let's deploy it. So dbt snapshot, right? And it's going to create a snapshot on members. So dbt snapshot, right? And hit enter. And there's only one, so I don't need to specify it. It's going to create members. Okay, so this is going to create a slowly changing dimension for you. You don't even have to worry about it now, right? So if we hit refresh, okay, we can see that snapshot. And if we select from this, there's some extra fields have been added. We got a GUID for a surrogate key. We have effective dating going on. Updated at, valid from, valid to. Okay, cool. So let's change. If we look at the where it's one, right? This person is an expired member. We're going to make her active, okay? If we run it again, she's active, but guess what? The snapshot, she's still valid, but is she expired? How do we fix that? Well, obviously, it has to run. The process has to run each time, right, to capture this information. So we're going to snapshot it again. And then what it's going to do is going to look at the source and target, compare the two, and it's going to find an effective date, basically end date the old one, create a new one, which is kind of cool. It automatically did it for you. So see right here, now it's active. This was end dated. This new date, it's null. Okay, let's talk about test and incremental. One things we did do is we defined, okay, date 01 as an incremental load. Okay, so if we execute this, in the last 5, we can see it only goes up to 2026. So let's insert into date 01 the first one of 27, okay? If we look at 02, oops, it's not there. Nice thing about this, you could truncate this and only have one row in it. It still works, right? Or you can load it now as long as the ID is ascending or the date you're comparing against is greater than, okay? So again, we're going to have to reload, right? And I just want to make sure I got the right one. This is date 02. So that's a model. So we're going to do dbt, dates, let's run, select, dates 002. And it works without or with the SQL. And again, some of these can be done with YAML. Take a look at the documentation. I've done it both ways. We can also deploy the mart. So let's do file run dash mart, and it's going to create all marts. What is our marts? Well, we're going to reference books, going to reference dates, going to join and convert this to a key from a date. And FAC has 3 dates. We're going to create 3 keys. Okay, so let's see if it did it for us. And so this is how you do your data modeling, right? So now if we execute this, we can see now, guess what? It added a single row. If we go here, let's take a look at our fact table. It's fully created, right? So fact loans. Okay, cool. Testing data. How many people test their data when they put it into the warehouse? Do you just trust it, Greg?
No.
Yeah, I roll the dice every time.
So there's things we can do for that, right? We can test for not null. We can test for unique. We can test for accepted values. So these are pretty self-explanatory. Accepted values, what is? It's just a range of values. Could be tags, whatever, just categories. Relationships. I have not got this to work, and I haven't had chance to go back and test if the stuff I got from Agentic AI or ChatGPT was correct, and we'll talk about custom, okay? But this fails right now, and I haven't had a chance to research it. Like I said, I've been extremely busy. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to the very last example, which is open folder. Okay, and we're going to go to library 3 and select folder. Okay, and to show you that this is so easy, we're going to redesign stuff too to work with. We're just going to tear it down again. Roll the dice. Gonna do this, and then what we're going to do is go down here, execute, and guess what? Now if we hit refresh, all the tables are gone. And again, this is a toy database, so we can easily do this. Obviously not doing this in production, but we're done. Okay, so now we're in here and we can see, okay, we got seeds, we got snapshots, we got models. Does anyone see a different file type that we haven't had before? Anyone notice it? It has a, if you're got background music noise, please mute. If you have the exclamation point, what is that? That's a YAML file, okay? And there's 2 reasons why I do YAML files. One, okay, it's great, okay, for documentation. Second thing is that's where you can put something called data test in, okay? There's custom tests and data tests, okay? So we can look at the seeds, and I don't remember where I did it. Yeah, I did it right here. I did it in the seeds because we can drop them. So first thing is in the seeds, what we're going to do is we want to go ahead and we want to check for integer, but we want not null and unique. Also for book genre, we have these types here. And last but not least, we know that if we come down to loans, right, we have a relationship from books, the book ID, to the loan, okay? So those are our three different ones, less the custom one, okay? Let's go test them and show you how to do it. So we're going to close this and we're going to go into test, okay? So data tests. So the very first one is we can look at raw data, like from raw data, and there's nothing there because we haven't built it out, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go for broke. How do you do this? I want to rebuild everything. This is what Matt does. He like tears things down sometimes and builds the whole thing. How do you do it, right? Let's do build. Maybe it's build. Try this one. This one, I always forget the command. Yeah, this is it. So I'm going to run 17 tasks and all the tasks are going to do it. It fails once because there's a test for overdue, right? So let's see, and it skipped relationship on loans 2, and it skipped a relationship on facts. Okay, that's fine. And it failed on just a data test, which I'll tell you why it failed there. So that's not bad. So it built everything for us, and we can go back and look at this. So refresh and tables. So now what we did now is we built it like the way I was doing. Before I just showed you all the different types of things I could do. But what I want to do is I want to have snapshots, see 1, 2, 3, to be my dimensions because these hardly change. So we want slowly changing dimensions, right? And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Raw is our raw zone. Mart, we have 1, 2 here. So it did not deploy a couple things, so we'll fix those. One thing it did not deploy is it did not deploy loans, right? Loan 02, and I do not know why, so let's try to do that again. Deploy, run, select, loan 02. Shouldn't have failed on this one, I don't know why. It worked now this time. And then I think fact loans failed too. So if we hit refresh, maybe it was because one of the data checks. So now we have snapshot, we have stage loans, which is a table. And we can look, remember in this one, we told it that column store was acceptable, right? Wrong place. And if we go to indexes, lo and behold, we got a column store, right? Cool. And now if we hit refresh, did we deploy the fact? I don't think we did the fact. Come on. We didn't do the facts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to deploy this last one. Then we'll talk about data test, right? So we're going to do fact loans. Okay, cool. So let's break something. Okay. So the test data tests, we need to put some data in. If we look at the raw where it's book 1, we can see this information here, right? What I want to do is I want to insert a duplicate value. So I'm going to insert it. Okay. And the test command is dbt and then test. That's it. And it runs all the tests. Okay. Ooh, so it failed on unique book ID and 30 days old. So I don't want that 31 to keep on coming up. So I'm going to change this to 90, right? Because I know nothing's 90 days old because I just created this recently. So close this, and if we run this again, it should only be one failure, okay? We're going to make all these things fail, and then we'll go back and fix it. Okay, so now we only have one fail. Cool. Let's do the next failure. Well, null values. There's no null values in the books. Let's insert a null value. and then run our tests again. Simple enough. And again, this is not rocket science. It's just good that you can do this. I'm also going to show you that when you run your tests, you can output to output somewhere and you can look at it. So now, and have someone go fix it, right? So we have unique was failed, right? As well as did I not run this? And execute. Insert into raw books. Did I not just run this? There we go. Maybe I didn't run it. Yeah, I didn't run it for some reason. Something weird is going on with that database tonight. I know it is a serverless database, but pretty sure I did my commands right for the user and it just failed. So we can see 2 of these are failing. Okay, cool. Accepted values. We know that there's a range of accepted values. This one is tact, right? We're going to say, hey, maybe it's healthcare, right? And we're going to run this again. When this should have 3 errors, and it failed 3 times. Awesome. Last thing, referential tests. Loan ID 1. Okay. Execute. We know this. I did them in order. So loan 1 is book 1 member, whatever, right? So what we want to do is change the book ID to 99 because there's no such thing. And now, if we run this last, guess what? This doesn't work. And again, the YAML file doesn't blow up. I have to find out why this is not working, okay? So we can see that we have right here, running tests. We can say not null, unique books, right? Accepted values, but the referential didn't complain at all. So to fix this, very simple, just dbt and seed, because we just basically were messing around with the seed tables, right? Let's talk about custom, okay, tasks, and then we can wrap this up. Custom tests, we're going to have 2. First is, guess what? This one says select from loans where the book is not into the reference, right? So if we have that same error or that same condition, 99, this is going to blow up now, right? So if we execute and we say run this, we're now book 99. Okay, let's see if that runs. So if we're going to do dbt, whoops, the wrong place, down here, dbt, and then we can do test, and this time we can do a select, right? And if we do a select of loans to books and hit enter, it's going to fail. And again, if there is a bug with that, I'll tell you, I just haven't had a chance to trace it down. Then you can just do it using this command, okay? Next thing is 30 days over. Okay, well, let's do select. Let's go all the way back here. So test, dash, select, and then this one is overdue. Okay. So the dash door failure allows to store it somewhere. Let's just do this. See if there's anything that hits this, and it shouldn't be any, because I changed it to 90, right? It passed, okay? Because as you know, I created this data just recently, so nothing's over 90. Let's say, is there anything over 30? Okay, let's save it. And again, I'm going to do file save. And guess what? Now we're going to, whoops, wrong place. This time I'm going to run the same command, but let's see, I'm going to store the failures, okay? What does that do? Not only it finds the errors or the conditions that happens, but also puts it into a hospital table that you can look at and have someone else fixed, right? Go back and fix the raw data. So I just copy that, and now we go to new query, run this, and execute, and guess what? We can see that there's 7 rows that you can see each one of these, the due dates are over 30 days old, okay? Okay, so let's wrap this up. Okay, last thing, generate documentation. Okay, I'm tired. Let's do that. I know I'll redo everything. It takes about a minute, if that. And then we'll get into the last demo. 1, 2, 3, come on. CLS, it's tired like I am. There's 2 commands that run. So the very first thing is this. The output is in target, and it creates a JSON file with a manifest here. Okay, to get that, to create your documentation, okay, you go ahead and you run the commands right out here. See, I'm just too tired to even think about it, so I put the commands. So generate's going to generate the file, okay, and hit enter. Make sure it generated. Okay, and serve is going to serve it. Okay, so if we go here and we go back here and type this guy and hit enter. Now what this does is it creates a local HTML file and brings it up in a local host container. And then guess what? We have all our documentation off those schema files. So now we can go to library and we can see there's models, right? We got mot, we got a books, date, stems, stage, seeds. Let's see if we can look at the books. Hey, look at this. We got constraints. It's a unique and null. This is accepted values, right? Okay, loans. Go down here. For some reason, that referential, like I said, you know, is not coming up, right? But all your documentation here. And the last thing I want to show you is this. This same thing is actually happening in Fabric. I was talking to the product group today, and they have something called DBT jobs. So you can see there's no schemas here, right? Guess what? I'm going to do the library v2 and just run the same thing. Oh, the capacity, of course, pause because I've been talking too much. Are you still in Fabric, Greg?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool. I didn't know if that changed or not. I know you guys like change quickly. So you're doing a lot of stuff in Fabric, like reports?
Uh yeah. A lot of like cloud to cloud data warehousing mostly.
Cool. And guess what? We have our same thing here. Look at that. Books, stems, members, facts, loans. And what you do is just go over here and there's advanced settings. So this is something that we need to make sure we did because I was just running one. I had some suggestions like, hey, you know, group this by the folders so you can run folders at a time. But this is just a GUI, and this is like instead of the problem with DBT is you have to put it somewhere, right? And Matt with the company he's working for, they're running DBT in Kubernetes containers, and the Kubernetes containers basically connect to the database and use the projects to do all the manipulation. So we saw you can take seeds, but this didn't have to be done by DBT. This could have been like Fivetran bringing in data, and once the data is in raw, we can move it all over the place. We can have multiple stages, multiple layers, and then eventually we want a dimensional model. That's what we're trying to get at. And we're trying to do this all low code, right? Just write some SQL statements, and you don't have to worry about Python programming. You don't have to worry about Spark clusters. It just works, right? And so right now I'm just submitting this, and let's take a look. And then we'll end it up. So while that's running, we'll come back to it. Summary. Get rid of this. The DBT tool depends upon the data, again, already being loaded into some type of tables in the warehouse or database raw tables, right? Power users who can write SQL or a file YAML can be very productive on building out models. There's several ways to materialize data. We talked about it, as well as test for quality. The whole project is a DAG. It's a directed acyclic graph. Therefore, unique file name is important. Additional information can be put into those property files, like I showed you. There's properties and schemas, and that allows you to generate documentation. In short, the DB tool makes it easy to build out data models, right? And I don't think I had any references, but if you're curious, DBT site has a ton. And of course, what is this? State 02 error. Okay, let's do this. This is why I was telling them they were having issues. So let's go back and just try one and see if I can change this. So let's just do the seed. Save it. So this is a weird thing in the interface I tell them they need to fix. If you go hit seed, you have to save it before you can run the seed, which is kind of stupid, right? But we have the same thing here. Like we have books to materialized tables, right? We have incremental, we have dates, which is ephemeral. We have the view. I didn't bring up the one which is materialized. We got our seeds here. We got a snapshot. This is, oh yeah, I didn't go into snapshots. Snapshots interesting. Two ways to do it. You can do it by date, right? To figure out, hey, something changed and do effective date, or you can check on the member ID and it checks all the columns if there's a change in the end dates, okay? And I already showed you these. These are just straightforward. This one, you're actually now putting in a reference, changing the key from a date to a date ID. Same thing with this one, right? And I'm just going to show you one, we'll call it a night. Again, this is new, it's buggy. I give them a bunch of bugs to fix, like that one right there, and hopefully they'll be fixing them. I'm opening up to questions while we're waiting. Is there any questions? I'm gonna stop this. It'll definitely eventually complete.
Hey, hey John, that DBT testing,
Yes.
how kind of how scalable is that? You know, how many rows and does it work with large set of data, or is that not recommended? You know.
Do not know. It all depends upon the platform that you have at the very end. So if you have a good um, warehouse like Snowflake, it's pretty quick, right?
Okay.
You know, Snowflake uses Calm Store and it
Yep.
uses micro partitions, and
Yep.
Matt's storing billions of rows and they do tests. So that
Yep.
is a good warehouse to use. Your mileage might not be the same with SQL Server. And again, you're building out these tables, and there's nowhere, as far as I know, and I'm curious now since you're bringing this up, right? Let me share. I don't know if in DBT, there's a couple of gripes I have with DBT. Like, for instance, see, these work this time. So you can see it, and then, like, for instance, I could say download input or output. And if I went here and took a look at this, right? Well, I don't want input. I want to do download. Let's say input. I would think it would have been output, but whatever. Let me show you this and then we'll go another one. So if we open this one into Notepad, we can see that's stupid. I don't know why I didn't do the output. The other one, I did one that had output for one of the builds I did, and it basically said, oh yeah, guess what? We're going to date and it's an incremental. We're selecting where the ID is greater than the max ones, right? One of the things I'm curious though is there's two things about DBT, but a lot of people are using it, right? So DBT labs, right? Compression on tables, right? So we know Calm Store is compressed, but so I don't see anything here for the tables. There's things called pre-hooks and post-hooks, which you can tell it to do an action before you run something.
Okay.
One of the things that would help you on really large tables is to compress it, right? And again, this is for analytical tables. So that's a good question. I just can't answer at this time. That's my
No big deal. Just
that's
curious. Yeah.
but that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the reason why is that I think because that and what's funny is that for this one we ran this, but we can't download it. It said success, right? And it did load the records. We can see these are 25 and this was 1400.
Mhm.
But who knows, about the rest with that. So that one's still in, development. So it'll be there eventually in the future. The cool thing about it is this, is that where do you want to run it, right? You have to either deploy your own VM and run it, or you have to use a managed service. And the managed service, like, Fabric will allow you to run the jobs there. They're also supplying a connector for Data Factory to kick this stuff off.
Okay. So got it.
Any
Yeah.
other questions? I mean, it's just the cool thing about it's just wicked easy. You just write SQL and that's it. Now, do you know what that language is that has the templatized? Like, I'll show, I even forget the name of it myself, so let me look at my article really quick. I think it's like Jenga, something like that. I'm sure I got it wrong, so let me go look really quickly and I'll tell you what it is. SQL Server, Article 33, is it? Let's see if this is it, or is it 34? Data mine builds with DBT for Visual Code. Yeah, it's using something called this. This article's not posted yet, but let me show you. Am I sharing? Not yet. Or am I?
No.
Nope. Okay, let me share and then we'll call it a night. So right here, this article will eventually be posted, but we got SQL scripts. But inside the SQL scripts, there's something called Jenga template language, and that is the secret sauce. So this right here, this curly bracket, they allow you to do things in there. For instance, in this one, I'm allowed to say, hey, guess what? Get me the reference date. I want to refer to select star from the loans table. I don't know where loan 01 is getting deployed, which we know it's a seed right here. And it's on the, it's data underscore raw. That's where it is. But find that reference. So it's going to runtime figure that out. Also, this allows us to run things I didn't show you yet. Like, for instance, this is saying DBT date diff, right? And there's macros and packages that are built in. This happens to be one of the packages built in. If you load a package yourself, then it would show up. And again, I always forget this, but I'll look at it really quick. It's under project. We can see that it's probably on the macros where the package is going to show up. Okay. So we can see this is a built-in project package, and what we're doing is this allows me to not worry about the language. Say, hey, take the due date, get me the current date from DBT, and take a difference. Okay. So that's that template language, and that's what makes everything work and make it powerful.
Got it.
Any questions?
John.
Hey, no worries. Again, I appreciate you guys staying late, and hopefully you learned something.
Good. I think some cool stuff, but whenever we use it, I don't know if I use it, but
Matt's been using it for 3 years straight, so there's people
Okay.
using it out there.